What's up, Chargers fans? Have a film breakdown slash Chargers offensive discussion for you guys today. And I was reading the book, the 2020 Green Bay Packers Complete Offensive Manual by Bobby Peters. It's great. Please check it out. And I was inspired to try and look at what the Packers ran in 2020 that the Chargers could potentially run and apply in 2021. Not that they've never used this concept before, but can they do it better? And can they do it like the Packers did? Because the Packers obviously are one of the best offenses in the NFL, although it helps to have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. And there are a number of plays that the Chargers could steal, if you will, or different variations that they could take from LaFleur and Rodgers and the Packers. But the one that stuck out to me, and the one that I'll start with, and hopefully an ongoing series that I do, it was mesh. And mesh, at least to me, is best recognized as those two shallow crossers over the middle of the field where the receivers intersect a few yards off the ball. But it's not the mesh in those crossers itself. They're not actually the first read. It's actually the end of the progression. So while you have this basic concept and this man coverage killer installed, you can also run a ton of variations from it. So, I mean, depending on what you have, if it's zone, you check out of it. But if you're in man, there's a lot of different things you could do with it. And according to the author, the Packers ran mesh and different variations of mesh more and better than anybody else he had ever studied. And when you have a receiving core like the Chargers, that is maybe not super high end talented, but it's a very versatile, I think, talented group in that sense that they have a lot of different talent on it. And when you have a group like that and your tight ends and even a receiving back like Eckler, not that he's a receiving back, but he's a really good running back who can catch the ball, When you have those different players with those different skill sets, you should try to take advantage and maybe copy, if you will, something like this. So let's talk about how the Chargers could adopt this from the Packers and then who and which players could benefit from these calls. So, one of the nasty ways that Green Bay attacked with mesh was to also have Devontae Adams at the top of your screen here on the outside and running a double move as the first read. And when you have someone who could run these disgusting routes like Adams, you see if you can take advantage of it. And if not, you go to your two crossers at the end of your progression. But, Adams absolutely cooks this corner for a 49-yard gain. Top of your screen. I mean, nasty. But gee, if only the Chargers had another receiver who could work across different formations and roast corners 1v1, I like the idea of running mesh with other receivers, and you could run the crossers with Allen. But having Allen as the primary read, potentially on the outside, although I think he's going to be right here, moving across the formation and then going to the outside, let him kill someone on a double move and see what happens. Which he's obviously very capable of doing. Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen are very similar in that route running regard. They're pretty consistently, those two are in the top 3 of route running on most lists. All right, but let's get to the crossers themselves. And, of the plays that I saw, it was a lot of receivers for the Packers catching the football, at least in my opinion of what I saw. I didn't look at everyone, I'm sorry. And the tight ends weren't exactly as involved. So let's start with the receiver. So I saw Alan Lazard, I forgot how to say it now, on the end of many of these throws. And he's going to be the first receiver here in your tree of receivers on the left. I don't know why I'm pointing. I have a mouse. Detroit had a really tough time covering this because apparently they run so much man. And the Packers ran a variation of mesh, according to the book, 7 different times that game. And Detroit just had no answer for them. And I'll show another play later that also was super difficult for them to cover. And you can see, watch him and watch the defenders. It's so difficult to work through and sift through traffic as a defender because, and sometimes the other crosser gets in your way and frees up your guy for a big game. Let's watch that one more time. Right? All of a sudden, whoa, oh, shoot. And then, boop, open for a big game. So which Chargers player do I think could benefit from this? I think it's Mike Williams. And there are a couple, there's another one I'll mention. But I really think Mike Williams could benefit from this because he's not necessarily a dominant route runner, but there are some athletic traits and he's got a really strong frame, and he's pretty good, in my opinion, after the catch. I don't know what the numbers say. I guess I should have checked. But to me, he's a guy who's really good after the catch. And in this game, Packers game, which I believe was his first 100-yard game ever, the Chargers ran Williams on a crosser, and he nearly took it to the house. Williams is right here. I do believe they run mesh on this play too. So again, it's not like they've never run it. I just think they should run it more and have some variations like the Packers do. And I think this would benefit Williams and the offense mutually. Because on the one hand, it's easy for Williams, right? He doesn't have to become that dominant route running wide receiver. And I just think at some point we're going to have to accept that that's just not him. And that's okay. But he gets to do this. You put the ball in the hands of a playmaker, a really good playmaker, and let him work. And on the other hand, it's a very easy completion for Herbert, assuming that, they call the right plays and the defense doesn't pick it up in zone or something. But it's a really easy completion for Herbert. And, you just give it to Williams, let him do the work. The defender who's covering him, if it's man, even if the defender's kind of on him, Williams does a very good job boxing out these guys. And granted, this isn't really like a box out kind of catch. You want to catch it in stride and go upfield, but, he can protect the football. So, I think this would be beneficial for both sides, both for Williams, who needs this, and for the offense and for Herbert. So I think it's a win-win. This was a really good Williams performance. I wish I believe it was this year, or whatever that year was. I wish we had more like that, because there were some games in there where Williams is really doing well. Now, to me, when I always thought of mesh, I always saw it as you have a receiver and you have a tight end. I feel like when I started playing like Madden, I would always run, maybe not necessarily mesh, but like tight end drag or something like that, because that was just like pretty easy. And, if you had man, just dump it off to the guy. I don't know. I don't play Madden. Sorry. If that's a stupid idea in real Madden, I don't know. Sorry. I haven't played in like 10 years. And then, so the Chargers could have fun with it, and they could go with, Austin Eckler running the crosser, or Keenan Allen, or, something in the, oh, I have a puppy now, so that's her barking. Put it in the sure hands of Josh Palmer or something. I don't know. But I'm going to look at tight ends for a second. And, one guy I recommend is Steven Anderson, who, as a guy that is on the roster bubble, and frankly, I picked him to not make the roster because I thought they would go with Donald Parham, and I still think they would if they had to pick. But, I think because of what he does, and there's one thing that he does better than anybody else, and that is he did yards after the catch, because last season he averaged 10 yards after the catch, and was the number one tight end in the NFL in yards after the catch with more than 10 targets. And so when you have your analytics department, in full force, that's something they probably recognize and would want to exploit, right? So here's one play. It's not a crosser. I'm just trying to, these next two plays aren't exactly going to be helpful. They're not exactly a mesh. They're not shallow crossers, but I'm just trying to give you some idea of what I'm talking about. Oh, sorry. Anderson's right here. And it's just that brute strength to finish this play. And granted, that's not exactly like the design. Like, that's not the point of running those crossers, not to run through six people. But, if you got to do it, you got to do it. And he does it. And I believe I should have, hold on 1 second. This a little bit. There we go. I believe Steven Anderson is here. And again, not a shallow crosser, but you get the idea, if you will, right? You kind of get the idea. I'm not super crazy. And the last play. So anyway, Anderson is a guy I think who could make the roster because of that ability, because that's not really Donald Parham. Donald Parham isn't exactly like a fleet of foot sort of guy, although that touchdown against the Chiefs at the end of the season, where I believe he juked the guy out, that was great. But he's not really that like catch and run kind of guy. And I believe Anderson's yards up the catch number was more than double that of Parham's, to give you some reference. Jared Cook, that's not really him. He doesn't have the age. It's not really athletic in that regard. He's more, I mean, he is athletic, but he's more of like, at least how the Saints used him last year, vertical stretch, end zone, sort of jump ball, box out kind of guy, which is great. But I think Anderson has the edge in that turn it up field and get extra yards sort of thing. And I think that looks like that on tape. And I think the numbers back that up as well. But the final play here, this could be an Eckler special. The Packers apparently scored 3 touchdowns in the red zone off of mesh, but they had a nearly 60% first down conversion rate in the red zone on third or fourth down with mesh. That's pretty good. And obviously it worked. And again, you'll see the linebackers, but yes, the linebacker, but the Lions linebacker struggle to get to Jones in time. And Jones just walks in. More time. Sorry, here's some Steven Anderson. One more time. See the crossers, variation, Aaron Jones running free. I mean, just free points, right? This concept just has to be so hard to cover for a defense, right? Because imagine you're the Chargers. Now imagine you're the defense covering the Chargers, and you have to worry about, okay, you have Allen on the outside, potentially double moving you on the outside and making you look horrendous, or the very talented, long striding Mike Williams over the middle, or the tight end who was number 1 in yards after the catch, also running the crosser, and then, all of that just to watch Austin Ekeler go, all right, I'm going this way, easy touchdown, right? And he's insanely hard to tackle as is. Even if the linebacker got there, if you can isolate those one-on-ones for Austin Ekeler, that guy's probably going to miss or not make it, or Ekeler's just going to plow into the end zone. So that's just deadly. And that's why I think the Chargers have to try to adopt this. And they have a really solid receiving core and tight end group and a couple of running backs to work with. And so the variations are endless, really. So that's it for me. Thank you guys very much for paying attention, sticking around. I appreciate it. I'm trying to do a couple more of these. There's a couple more plays in this book or concepts in this book that I want to get into. I also have a book about the 49ers running attack and the Saints third down plays. So I'm going to try to get into these if I can, because I think it's really interesting. And so I hope you guys either learn something or just kind of see what I'm seeing here. Let me know. All right, guys, appreciate it. Take care.